What do you see when looking at the newest wave energy testing site in the world?
0974, so we had a little bit in and a tiny bit south.
Since most of it's underwater, turns out what you see is, well, the sea.
We should be right on top of where the cable comes through the seafloor.
For the last 12 years, a whole crew of folks have been working to get this project, called PacWave, up and running, working to harness the power of ocean waves and turn it into electricity. We heard that this project was nearing completion, so KGW headed out on the water west of Newport.
Wednesday night, they put the last cable on the seafloor at the test site.
That's Burke Hales, a professor at Oregon State and chief scientist for PacWave.
And it's taken so long. There have been so many starts and stops, so many challenges, cost implications, working with the contracting to get this all in place. It's been a huge effort to get this going. And so, yeah, we're very relieved.
Now, PacWave won't be testing any of its own energy devices. Instead,
so what we provided the developers of the wave energy generation devices is the cabled connection, which ultimately goes to the local utility power grid, the connectors that they can connect, they can mate their devices to, the permits to operate in the site.
The testing site is a 2 square mile patch of ocean that has 4 berths, each wired to infrastructure on land. Developers working on energy devices can bring them to the site, hook them up to the cables Burke's team installed, and see how they work.
So what we provided is the facility that will allow them to do their tests, simulating what they might ultimately do as a commercially viable entity.
One of the big questions is just whether these devices can stand up to the elements in the rough seas off Oregon's coast. But that's not the only concern.
How do you keep a device out here and not have it be damaged by the energy you're trying to harvest? How do you have it survive 2 years at sea? How do you keep its performance going when sea life is growing on it? How do you keep it so that it doesn't harm sea life in its interactions?
It might sound like just running some cables out in the ocean wouldn't be that complicated, but
working in these conditions, laying cables, drilling under the seafloor with the precision that these operators can work in is just amazing.
Crews on specialized ships painstakingly worked for weeks to lay some 70 miles of cable, weighing north of 1 million pounds, in precise locations. A different ship, toting a remote-operated vehicle, or ROV, comes behind them to bury the cable.
Burial ROV is like an underwater tractor that lands on the seafloor and jets water into the seafloor to form a trench for the cable to be buried in. And what you can see down in here, that's where the subsea cable comes in.
Hales took us to Driftwood Beach, just south of Newport, to show us where the cable comes ashore in large underground vaults. And he showed us what's hidden inside those cables.
These 3 copper elements, that's what the electrical power flows through. Those are rated to 37,000 volts.
They also contain fiber optics to send data back and forth from the testing site.
We've got bandwidth for data rates out to the site that are, gigabit. I mean, crazy high levels of data transmission rates here. This is where we connect to the utility grid.
And then all that data heads up the hill to a third location.
So welcome to the Utility Connection Monitoring Facility, or the UCMF.
The facility has a control building where they can monitor the devices and analyze all the data coming in. It's got a building where power can be fed directly into the grid. And it's got a third area where developers can stage their devices and tie into the cable system. Each of those cables is rated for 5 megawatts. So if all 4 berths have devices working at peak power, the testing site can put real energy into people's homes. And though the number may not sound impressive,
that number is roughly 2,000 houses.
PacWave isn't about generating enough electricity for all of Oregon. It's about testing new ways of creating power that'll help the world transition away from fossil fuels. And this week, Hales and his team got one step closer to doing just that.
It's huge, right? I'm a little emotional, right? It's like, it's worked so hard on this. And so it's amazing.
Kale's with me now. Super interesting as always. So when is a company going to come and what are they going to bring?
Well, they're expecting the first device to be in the water sometime next year, they hope. This is all still kind of up in the air and to be determined. But the first company is called PacWave. They've got this big kind of boxy blue thing that you saw in the piece there that will sit out in the waves, rock back and forth, and generate energy. They've got a couple more companies that are lined up, but might be a little farther down the line.
And where would this energy be used, or where would this be most useful?
Yeah, it's going to be a while. So Burke Hales told me that, this likely to have commercial viability in about a decade, but it's probably not going to be here in the Pacific Northwest. He explained to me that we have very cheap power here. I know it may not feel like that when you get your energy bill, but we've got very cheap electricity, and these things create very expensive electricity. So it's going to be most useful in isolated communities. He used Kodiak, Alaska as an example, because that's the type of place where they have to ship in a bunch of diesel to create all their electricity. So that's very expensive. If you can bring in something like this, it might just break even.
Yeah, not great for the environment to be burning all that diesel as well.
And that's the point of this whole thing.
Yeah, wow, all right. Well, it'll be fun to see where it goes. Thanks, Cale.
My pleasure.
So what do you think about wave energy? Do you see it as a feasible energy source for the future? Or do you think roadblocks will bog it down for decades to come? Email us and let us know your thoughts, will you? The address is thestory@kgw.com, or call and leave a voicemail. The number is 503-226-5090.